All right, everyone. Welcome to Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, the websites by plebes. We're going to the numbers. Let's do it. Number time. These numbers may look very close to the numbers you just saw in the previous episode. That's because we're recording back-to-back episodes.
Surprise, surprise. Two episodes in one day, baby.
Right? And then why? Because we love doing this and we feel horrible that we lost an episode and we can't do this. We can't do that to everyone. All right, so here we go. Let's break it down. The numbers. At the time of this recording, the block height is 700,578. The Bitcoin price, 47,065. Chain rewrite days, 840. Total public Lightning capacity, 2,472.17. Sats per dollar, 2,125, and blocks to the halvening, 139,422.
Man, the Lightning capacity went up by 1 Bitcoin.
Since we recorded last. So that's pretty crazy, if you think about it. That means it went up by 1 Bitcoin in the last hour.
Yeah, and that's a lot. That's a lot, dude.
That's pretty much all we have for the numbers.
Yep.
We've got nothing.
Sorry,
they're that boring.
We just covered them the last episode. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the daily fail. All right. So, shout out to @BigRedDog for tagging us in this rug pull. Zabu token price flatlines after 3.2 million attack on Avalanche blockchain.
The names, dude. The names.
Doesn't that sound so familiar, though? Doesn't that remind you? Isn't that guy from that university? Oh wow, he's like, his name is totally escaping me, but he's a total shitcoiner, obviously. Anyways,
that's what's important.
That's really all that's important. I don't remember what his name is, but like, yeah. You know, he was sitting there complaining. He was explaining to me how his Avalanche blockchain is sufficiently decentralized because they have 2,000 node operators. I'm like, yeah, 2,000 node operators that are all run by your company. Like, you kidding me?
Like XRP?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the guy's super smart, but of course, you know, like every other egomaniac, needs it to be about himself, cannot just contribute to the open source goodness of everyone, you know?
Yep.
Anyways. Let's dive into it. Let's dive into the Zabu token failure over here. 3.2 million attack on Avalanche blockchain. Yeah, not so safe, huh, with your 2,000 validators? Guess you need 2001, maybe?
Could you zoom in a little bit, Phil?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Our viewers.
Yeah, if they just had one more validator, Nico. They just needed more validators.
Just one more.
Just one more.
They could have avoided all this.
You know what? I bet if this was audited, I'm sure this wouldn't have happened. Right? They would have just had an audit. I'm sure this could have fixed anyways. All right, Zabu Finance, a DeFi application on the Avalanche blockchain, has reportedly been exploited for crypto tokens worth 3.2 million. The removal of a large number of tokens eventually reduced the value of Zabu tokens to 0. The removal of a large number of tokens eventually reduced the value to 0. Okay? There you go. Is that really worth the risk? Really?
Wait,
really?
I have a joke.
Oh, go.
The token avalanche to 0.
It's true.
Okay. I'm sorry.
And it's funny that it's on the Avalanche blockchain, right? That's so true.
I'm getting old. Okay. It's a dad joke. Okay. But I know some of you laughed. It's
definitely, hey, look. It's funny because it's true, you know? Anyways, all right, so here we go. Zabu Finance announced the exploit by asking for help from Avalanche, and popular Avalanche hosted decentralized exchanges. Wow. Decentralized exchanges, huh? Apparently. But they go to one place to ask for help from these decentralized exchanges, and anyways, it's wonderful. Anyways, here we go. The Zabu team wallet has not sold a single Zabu. We're under an exploit, possibly from Spore Pool. That's a great name, huh? Spore Pool. We're investigating the exploit. Need help, Pangolin, Trader Joe, Avalanche. Yep, you need help, all right. Based on further investigation, and I would have highlighted this, but of course, for some reason, they blocked the highlight function. Anyways, based on further investigation, Zabu found the attacker stole the assets from a pool of Spore tokens, which according to the Blockchain Explorer included 402.9 wrapped ETH. Oh, look at that. The wrapped ETH.
What does all this mean?
It means nothing. It means nothing. Like, I love, like ETH pretends that they wrap Bitcoin. They're like, you know how much Bitcoin was wrapped on ETH? And it's like, absolutely fucking none. Because it's not actually wrapping anything. There's no wrapping. It's just ETH. It's just a shit coin. You don't get it. You move your Bitcoin to this platform. You no longer have ownership of it. And then they give you shitcoin. And then they pretend that it's something amazing, which it's not. Anyways, whatever. So, guys, Zabu token, chalk it up to the wrecked leaderboard. I don't even need to go further. They got scammed. 3.2 million. That's it. You know, that's all you need to know. It's garbage. Okay?
It's garbage.
It's pure garbage. But before I move on to the next fail, because the next fail is definitely going to hurt some people who were cheering for this Ethereum killer. You have any thoughts on Zabu token and how it went to zero?
Yeah, the goddamn names, you know, they jinxed themselves. Avalanched, and it avalanched to zero. Those are my thoughts, man. Anyways, I know exactly what you're going to talk about. So, Solana, tell me more about it, Phil.
That's right. Okay, so look. So Solana was the... And you know what? There was a lot of people cheering, man. There was a lot of people cheering. We saw an epic rise in this shitcoin, and everybody's all excited, right? Solana, it's going to replace Ethereum. Boom. Decentralized finance. They've got it all. Didn't they have something also? Didn't they also have a valid? Yeah, look, the validator community. Another one that has validators. This is interesting. So the validator community elected to coordinate a restart of the network. The community is preparing a new release. The instructions will be posted in Discord. Okay? So I'm sorry, look, before we go any further, this was a great response. Decentralized, unstoppable, will never be stopped. Decentralized and unstoppable, Solana. It's so not true because it totally was stopped. Oh my god. It's brutal. And here we go. Here's what happened. Solana mainnet beta encountered a large increase in transaction load, which peaked at 400,000 transactions per second. These transactions flooded the transaction processing queue, and lack of prioritization of network critical messaging caused the network to start forking. Apparently, it can be stopped, and it just starts to fork. So all that value that you started to think that you had in it, it kind of didn't go the way you thought. This forking led to excessive memory consumption, causing some nodes to go offline. Engineers across the ecosystem attempted to stabilize the network, but were unsuccessful. It's interesting how engineers across the network try to do that. It almost sounds like it's all on the same server or group, maybe farm of servers. That doesn't matter. Okay, let's continue. So yeah, so here we go. This is back to our original article, right? That the validator community elected to coordinate the restart of the network. So there you go. Sufficient decentralization, but yet they can coordinate the restart of an entire network, and it all started to fork. I think last night the price of Solana was up at like 190 or something like that USD, and dropped to like 152. Not that that even makes a difference, right? Because at the end of the day, it's really about the decentralization, the censorship resistance. And of course, there's plenty of people that cheered for this, but don't get me wrong, you know, like this was a massive pump, like a massive pump, okay? And now all of a sudden that thing started to split off into random forks. That's not good. Again, you know, look, and I know it's tough, right? It's tough because you watch, especially at times like this, right? You see Bitcoin, it's going like flat, kind of does these bumps up, these skids down, you know, and it's tough to watch. And then you see this shit coin, right, that really has zero use case except for doing the whitewashing that is DeFi, okay? And it's pumping hard and nobody knows why. Every single day you see it go up another 17, another 22%, and this and that. And you sit there and you think, I'm missing out. You're not missing out. It truly has zero adoption in the grand scheme of things. It's not being used as a censorship resistant ledger. It's not being adopted by countries, okay, as legal tender. It's not being battled against by everything the mainstream media has to throw against it. Actually, on the opposite side, the mainstream media cheers these projects.
Because the powers that be could control them.
Yeah.
They could be coerced. So that's why, you know, you have exchanges, you have Silicon Valley, you have the VCs. They're pushing for proof of stake, and they're pushing for, you know, the XRP narrative now is like, oh, Bitcoin uses too much energy, XRP uses less energy. Bitcoin's use of energy is a feature, not a bug. The more energy Bitcoin uses, right, the more it would take a government or an attacker to try to rewrite the chain, right? So, and we've also been preconceived, right, with this idea, right, that using too much energy is bad. That's not true. The more energy a civilization uses, the more it's literally a direct causation of prosperity. Right? So the more energy we use, the more prosperous our society becomes. And again, right? It's not that Bitcoin's using, you know, your grandmother's energy, right? Bitcoin is using energy that is already going to waste. So it's not even using energy that's being needed in the first place, right? So yeah, man, like, look, all these shit coins, right? They always put the tech in front of decentralization. Right? It's always the tech narrative. This could do the transactions per second, this per second, that per second. It's not about the transactions per second. It's about the value of transactions per second on the network. And if you compare Bitcoin to the rest, right, it doesn't even come close, right? And again, Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that has sufficient amount of decentralization to successfully separate money from state.
Nico, I just want to add this one last, because from the R cryptocurrency, this kind of just says it all, right? The Solana blockchain has come to a halt due to a bug, and the last transaction was an hour ago. After the bug, team shut the network down themselves. Okay, guys, you can't. There is no team that can shut down Bitcoin.
You saw that with the China ban, dude.
Yeah, you saw it. They tried. Trust me, that was one of the moves. I guarantee you. Like, if you think for a second that wasn't a move, they thought for sure that was going to work. They didn't think they was going to have to go any further. Why do you think they reanimated these creatures like Steve Hanke? You know, and they were like, "Come on, Steve, come on." Write something. You're good at that.
Get out of your cave. Get out of your
cave. Exactly. You know,
they crawled out like Gollum. He's like, it's dangerous for the economy of El Salvador. I'm Steve Hanke.
Vampires. I swear, man. They are. They animate these vampires. They're like, go. You know, do our bidding.
You're free. It's like, Western Union, it's better than a Bitcoin. Bitcoin, bro, these people are crazy. Anyways, Phil, it's time for it.
The Daily Meme Review, sponsored by
Citadel 21. All right, everybody, the meme for today. Are you okay?
I'm going down. Okay. Oh my god. I'm sorry. Okay.
All right, guys, the meme for today. I have to give you guys a little bit of context, but I'm sure that if you guys been on the Twitter, you guys have picked this up, right? And like a Litecoin account tricked the mainstream propaganda arm into believing that Walmart was to accept Litecoin. It was totally fake, right? Again, here's a screenshot of the announcement. Walmart announces major partnership with Litecoin, and it was from the Litecoin verified account, right, of which they already deleted that tweet, and all of the mainstream media picked it up. And here is a meme from Publord, perfectly describing. Definitely give him a follow. Toxic Happy Hour, fellow YouTubers. Anyways, check it out. Never a dull moment around here. Global Newswire, we're running the Litecoin press release. You confirmed the news with Walmart, right? You called Walmart, right?
I love these.
Dude, they're so good, dude. And for that, Phil, you might murder me for this because this is a very, very evil score. I'm going to give it a key that I still don't know what it does.
Is that the Windows key?
Wait. Let it focus. Let it focus.
There we go. That's the Windows key.
Ah.
That pulls up. If you're on a Windows machine, it's supposed to pull up your start menu. When you hit the little window. Yeah, it's supposed to.
Really? I've always been afraid because I think Bill Gates is just going to go pop out behind my desk and go, ah!
It just formats your drive. Like, pretty much, like, you hit that key and all of a sudden you just get a blank screen.
I was worried, you know.
Like, that's it.
Bill Gates pops out. Have you been vaccinated?
That's right.
Anyways, what
it's
would
there
you
in front of you twitching and shit.
Have you been vaccinated?
another vampire that's animated. Yes! But he's different. He's like a higher up vampire, right?
Yeah, dude.
He's like way high up. He gets totally. You know what? He gets his own room with his own weird little coffin.
He gets his orders directly from the master of the vampires, Klaus Schwab. Anyways, what would you give that meme?
All right, I'm going with okay, because when you're building nodes and you're dealing with a lot of this microcontroller hardware, you're going to need a smaller nut set, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of people are going to get a laugh out of that. I'm talking about your slot nuts. There you go.
Oh,
got an M5, M4, and M3 slot nuts,
dude. You could you could nut in so many different ways. Anyways, guys, do you agree with our scores? Do you disagree? Let us know down in the comments, and of course, join our Telegram group. Give us links. Give us memes to review because it's a meme review. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by
Crypto Cloaks.
None of this endless talking about public health at this point is really about public health. But that's not what it's about. It's about power. These demands are so obviously irrational that forcing you to accept them without complaint is the whole point of the exercise. If they can make you take medicine you don't want or need, they've won. You are theirs. You belong to them.
That if you wish to have these privileges, you need to get vaccinated. Travel and having the right to travel interstate, it's not a constitutional right as far as I know, to board a plane.
So, and we're quoting, if you wish to have these privileges, you need to get vaccinated. But more to the point, why doesn't anyone in authority seem outraged by it? Possibly because a lot of them hope that's our future. Congressman Don Beyer of Northern Virginia has already introduced legislation in the House that would require vaccine passports for all domestic air travel in this country. Sound crazy? It's just the first step, phase one of a much larger program. Once authoritarian measures like Don Beyer's have made large numbers of otherwise law-abiding Americans desperate enough to use fake vaccine cards, then we'll move to the next phase, and this will likely happen soon. You'll start to hear about the dangerous epidemic of fake documents out there, an epidemic that threatens the public health of this country. Over to you, Wolf. And suddenly they will have the perfect solution to this terrifying new crisis of fake vaccine cards, and the answer, needless to say, will be digital COVID passports. It'll be so obvious. All your key personal health information protected by your unique biometric signature, stored safely forever in the cloud. It's perfect. It's highly efficient. Only a Russian QAnon operative could oppose something so obviously good and essential to the public health. Just don't forget to bring your fingerprints with you the next time you want to leave your house, or buy food, or fly on an airplane, or visit your children in college, or have a job, or get access to your checking account, or get access to your checking account, or get access to your checking account.
Yeah, so there's the legendary Tucker Carlson saying exactly what two independent content creators have been telling you guys for the last 6 months. And I have no shame in saying this. We fucking told you so, right? Why? Because it's goddamn obvious, okay? So, yeah, there you have it. Tucker Carlson laying out exactly why. And we've been saying this for so long. This is not about health. This is about control. And I want to reemphasize this, guys. We are not anti-vax on simply Bitcoin. However, we are for the freedom of the individual to make his or her own choice over their body and what they want to put into it. And this isn't about health. This is about coercing you. And by coercing you, right, totalitarian governments get more and more control. If you didn't believe us 6 months ago or the months that we've been telling you this, now you heard it from Tucker Carlson himself. Phil?
Tinfoil hat time. That lady that was talking about how, you know, it's not a right to be able to travel within your own borders. I don't know what her name is, but she's also, so this is interesting. She comes from China, right? A place that we know practices population control, okay? And she's the head of Planned Parenthood, which, you know, is a form of lowering the population in a way. That's my tinfoil hat moment. It's kind of interesting, right? That this person that comes from a population controlled country is the head of a method of sorts of controlling the population numbers. It's just kind of weird, right? And then of course she and what is she touting here? Right? She's easily, comfortably touting the rhetoric that you need to shut up, take your vax, do what you're told, follow the rules, and you will be allowed to have freedom. I want you to think of what I just said, the stupidity of what I just said. You will be allowed to have freedom. That's not how freedom works.
And that's not how America works either, right? These are natural rights.
They're all nuts.
Natural rights that were given to us, literally stated in the Bill of Rights, right? And she's acting all of a sudden as if the freedom, no, that's not how this works, right? But anyways, moving on to, again, guys, we've been telling you, the rhetoric is going to intensify from the mainstream media propaganda fiat arm. Check it out. More articles, this time from the New York Times. Bitcoin cosplay is getting real. I unfortunately stole this fail from Phil. I apologize, Phil, because he was going to cover it, but...
That's okay. He's newsworthy. This guy's a putz.
Man.
So, I mean, and this is terrible. Knows nothing about Bitcoin, but he's about to teach us about it.
Yes, he is. So,
yep, here we go. Teach us.
Applebaum, right? Some might dismiss
Applebaum.
Some might dismiss as a publicity stunt the embrace of a digital currency by a country where only a third of the population has internet access. Yes, and you know what the majority of the population has though? A cell phone.
Cell phones.
And you know what cell phones do? They connect you to what, Phil?
Well, they connect you to the cell phone network,
which connects you to the internet.
No, don't say that, Nico.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Don't say the internet, okay? The internet only exists on computers, laptops, and tablets, not on phones.
Oh, but he goes on to say, right, that some Salvadorians took to the streets to protest. We've also covered this on Simply Bitcoin. We couldn't count more than 15 people in the protest pictures. And we covered in the previous episode that we just had Randy on, 11% of the total population of El Salvador downloaded the Chivo app the day of launch.
How are those 4 protesters doing? Hey, I mean, those guys look pretty hungry. Must have been out there all day.
I'm sure, anyways. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. Some products become popular because they're useful. Bitcoin is popular despite being mostly useless. Really? Okay, so what about the people in Afghanistan that can't use the legacy system? What about the people in El Salvador that are paying up to 30% to Western Union? What about them? And now they're saving all of that money?
Well,
it's estimated that on remittance fees that the people of El Salvador are going to save, their GDP is going to increase by $2 billion alone this year. Is that what you consider useless, Mr. Applebaum?
Nico, didn't we just cross a threshold of how much was transacted on the Bitcoin network? Didn't we just reach some new milestone?
Thank you for mentioning that. Check this out. Bitcoin worth $2 billion moves for just 78 cents.
Huh.
Wait a second.
This is useless.
I thought he said it was useless. Could the legacy system do it for 78 cents? Phil's having a coughing attack, but it definitely could not. Anyways, moving on. The rigidity of Bitcoin's design also makes it dangerously impractical as a replacement for national currencies. It is a part of a long tradition of trying to prevent politicians from making bad economic policy decisions by preventing them from making any decisions. That is the whole goddamn point. Separating money from state, because it's clear that politicians cannot do a good job. A really good example of that just happened recently is we left $80 billion to the Taliban, people that we were supposedly fighting for 20 years. Oh, here's $80 billion of, state-of-the-art equipment. There you go. And there he is criticizing the gold standard. But this is the best part, Phil. The security of Bitcoin is greatly overstated. It can be lost. Indeed, by some estimates, 20% of all Bitcoin in existence is no longer accessible because the passwords have been lost or forgotten. But I would like to mention one of Satoshi's quote, right? If you lose some Bitcoin, it's just a small donation to everybody else, right? This, again, is a feature, not a bug. Anyways, in 2018, more than 100,000 people lost the Bitcoin and other virtual currencies they had entrusted to a Canadian company, Quadrilla, after the founder died suddenly. God. So he's conflating
this
two
guy.
things. So he's conflating many things, right? And again, guys, this comes from the Wall Street, from the New York Times.
Disingenuous shit.
This comes from a mainstream media propaganda arm. I'm telling you, it's a big, and we're gonna do our best to cover every single one of these articles and debunk them. Every single one, right? He conflated the fact, right? Yes, if you have your Bitcoin on an exchange, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. At the same time, if you properly store your seed, it's more secure than having your money in a bank, okay? And that's a fact. Phil?
So, man, I'm just like, as I'm reading this, I didn't see that piece. I mean, I saw the link, but I did not read that whole article, and then you pointed out that comparison that he gave about Quadriga. So does that mean that any time that there is a problem in the banking system, which happens pretty much multiple times a day all over the world, are we to blame the creators of the money for the mistakes that the banks made? Because essentially, he's blaming Bitcoin for hacks on exchanges. That's like blaming the Federal Reserve when a bank gets robbed. I mean, don't get me wrong, I hate the Fed, but I'm at least going to be somewhat reasonable and logical in my argument. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, dude. That makes no sense at all. How is that Bitcoin's fault that an exchange got that an exchange owner, and again, I don't know the whole story, but supposedly ran away with all the funds? You know, again, you know, like this is no different than somebody pulling. This is no different than Bernie Madoff, right? Well, I mean, in essence, right? Like, you know, the top of something goes and, you know, rakes in all the money. So it's, you know, I mean, it's not a Ponzi scheme exactly, but it's still a scam.
He's using false narratives, okay, to try to create his own narrative, right, to try to literally distract you from the failures of fiat, and fiat slowly stealing away from you every single year. They're trying to keep that system alive. But anyways, moving on to the next article. Check this out, Phil. We've been calling this, again, this is another Simply Bitcoin We Told You So moment, right? How governments are going to go after the lowest hanging fruit. Check out this article by Bloomberg. Stablecoins face crackdown as U.S. discuss risk council review. U.S. officials are discussing launching a formal review into whether Tether and other stablecoins, check out the language, it's very strong, threaten financial stability. Scrutiny that could lead to dramatically ramped up oversight for a fast-growing corner of the Bitcoin and shitcoin market. Let me kind of translate what that means, right? Tether is a threat to the US dollar, or it's potentially becoming a threat, so we will shut it the fuck down, or we will regulate it into oblivion. And you want to know why? Because they can, right? Governments are going to go after stablecoins first, then they're going to go after DeFi, and then they're going to go after shitcoins, just like Solana. You want to know why? Because they're not sufficiently decentralized. That's why. And it's the more that
there's a head to cut off.
The more that governments lose their power, their monopoly on the creation of money, the more savage they will get. check out, this was pretty huge. This happened today. Gary Gensler outlines SEC agenda in Senate hearing. Here is the transcript. I spent hours going through this thing, so you guys wouldn't have to, right? But essentially, there's a couple things to pay attention to, right? So here he's addressing, the crypto asset market. I love how they don't call it cryptocurrencies. They call it crypto assets. They want to emphasize that it's not a currency because, again, the IRS, they want to tax that. Anyways, right now, to quote Gary Gensler's testimony, right now, large parts of the field of crypto are sitting astride of not operating within regulatory framework that protects investors and consumers. Again, this isn't about protecting investors and consumers. This is about protecting the legacy financial system. That's all this is about. And have you noticed that they weren't talking about this 5 years ago and they're talking about this now? The reason they're talking about this now is because Bitcoin is sitting pretty at an $800 billion market cap. And when it's sitting pretty at a $15 billion market cap, this wording is going to get much more intense. So he says, currently, we don't have enough, investor protection in crypto finance, insurance, trading, and lending. Frankly, at this time, it's more like the Wild West or the old world buyer beware that existed before the securities laws were enacted. This asset class is rife with fraud, scams, abuse, and certain applications. So if you're a shitcoin developer, guess what happens? The U.S. government's going to go after you very, very soon, my friends. Anyways, at the SEC, we have a number of projects that cross over both tracks. The offer and sale of crypto tokens, XRP, Ethereum. So with the pre-mine, of course, and, crypto trading and lending platforms, stable value coins is what I told you. They're going to go after stable coins, investment vehicles, providing exposure to crypto assets and crypto derivatives, custody of crypto assets. So again, right, the writing is on the wall. I'm going to read you some original thought. Right, governments will inevitably shut down or regulate into oblivion anything that is not sufficiently decentralized as they lose their monopoly on the creation of money. They will go after shitcoins first, then DeFi, then shitcoins. Only Bitcoin can withstand what is coming. So they could shut down DeFi because they can. They could shut down shitcoins because they can. They can't shut down Bitcoin even if they wanted to. And I'm telling you, they want to, right? Because they cannot, right? So if you're planning to put your value, your wealth, you want to put it into something that cannot be stopped, right? That the powers that be, once they're dying, once the fiat system dies and governments no longer could just print to pay for things, they're actually going to have to start providing value to their citizens, right? They're not going to want to do that. They're going to fight tooth and nail to keep that money printer alive. And they're going to go after everything and everything and anything. Right? So that includes DeFi, that includes stablecoins, that includes shitcoins. Anything that they could shut down, they will shut down. And I guarantee you they're going to get so aggressive over the next 5 years. And the only thing that protects you is taking your Bitcoin off the exchange into self-custody. And no matter who it is, they cannot touch you. Phil?
I'm always impressed by their ability to wordsmith and make themselves sound like they're always looking out for our best interests. I always love how they're always looking out for our best interests. But yet, for some reason, all the rot happens under their watch. Happens under their watchful eye. It happens with the laws that they pass, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, we're going to go a little bit off track, but they essentially dismantled the Glass-Steagall Act, which allowed what happened in the 2008 financial crisis. Had they have not dismantled that would have been stopped. But they needed a way to essentially uncap all of the value out of people's homes. And they needed to find a way to get to that liquidity. Because you see, this problem's been going on for a long time. Okay? And as we've said, now we've come to that point in the game where they've got nothing left. So now they are absolutely going to... Cryptocurrency is, and I hate using that term, it is such terrible nonsense. Bitcoin and shitcoins, okay? This is the last bastion of, like, you know, people joke around in 2017 and often hear like, oh, you know, Bitcoin's the Wild West. It's like, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that it's the Wild West. It's like the last bastion of freedom. And they are going to make sure, okay, they are going to make absolutely sure that they cripple every exit out of this system. And again, I don't think DeFi is an exit out of this system or anything like that. That's all just shitcoining. Okay? The true exit out of this system is Bitcoin. But if they could scare enough of us, if they could discourage enough of us, if enough of us are broken down and beaten and have failed enough that we shrink away and, essentially, never to essentially try again, well, then they win, right? And we continue to use their crap money. So don't forget, this is an orchestra, right? And they're playing, they are playing, and it's about to get very noisy and very confusing. Bitcoin is the signal, and we just got to stick to it.
Absolutely. It's the signal, man. It's take self-custody, run a node, right? And we will do our absolute best to stay on top of the mainstream media propaganda, right? And debunking every single one of those articles, especially the ones that come from the big publications like The Economist, like the New York Times, like the Financial Times, because we need to counter their narrative, right? If not us, then who, right? But anyways, guys, there was no software release. We're exhausted. We did 2 shows back to back. We hope you enjoyed them. We wanted to give you guys a little surprise since we couldn't, release the episode yesterday. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do, guys. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the perspective and the catastrophic fails, definitely consider subscribing. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.
Shitcoins are funny.